Welcome back to Carneades.org. Today we're going to be looking at something called Pascal's wager. This is an argument for the existence of God. The famous wager presented by Blaise Pascal, the mathematician more famous for his triangles probably than his arguments for the existence of God. While looking at this wager, I'm not going to present it exactly as Pascal presented it. I'm going to do my best to actually create a more convincing and a arguably more charitable version of the argument that avoids some of the kind of simple, easy, low-hanging fruit objections that are often put up against the wager. Then, in the next video, I will put some stronger objections to the wager that I don't think it's going to be able to stand up against. A quick proviso before we get going. This is a basic introduction to Pascal's wager. If you want more information, check out Pensée by Blaise Pascal and Pascal's wager in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. With that out of the way, let's get started. So, in order to do this, we have to understand that Pascal isn't going to be doing your standard kind of argument for the existence of God. He's not going to be doing something like the cosmological or the ontological argument. He's going to be arguing from a place called Pragmatism. Basically, Pascal says we cannot know whether or not God exists. We should therefore believe whatever would be the most profitable, whatever would give us the most good in our lives. What Pascal is going to say is that believing in God is actually going to give us more good in our lives than not believing in God. Let's take a look. So, in order to do this, we're going to look at a decision matrix. Now, a decision matrix, you may have seen this before if you watched my video on the prisoner's dilemma, is basically going to, up top, have a couple possibilities, and on the side, have the different choices that you have in a situation. You then find the outcomes of each choice and each possibility, multiply the likelihood of the possibility times the good or bad in the outcome, add all of those up for each choice, and that should help you decide which choice is actually going to be the better choice to make. That was a little confusing and abstract, so let's take a look at a specific example. Take the following game. If you win, you get $3. If you lose, you lose $1. There's a 50-50 chance that you'll win or you'll lose. You would set up the decision matrix as follows. Up top, you can win or you can lose, and 50% on either side. Your choice is either you can play or not play. In the case that you play and you win, you get $3. In the case that you play and you lose $1. In the case that you don't play, either way, you break even. You don't make any money, you don't lose any money. So, now what we do is we're going to multiply the probability times the outcome, 0.5 times 3, and add that to the next probability times the outcome, 0.5 times -1. And we will get overall a total of 0.5. Blaise Pascal was a mathematician, so it shouldn't be surprising that there's math involved in his argument for the existence of God. If we don't play, we do 0.5 times 0 plus 0.5 times 0, because we're not making anything or not losing anything one way or another, and we of course get 0. So in this case, it would be better to play, because we will make, on average, $0.5 every time that we play, according to the decision matrix. So, let's take a look at how this works for the problem of God's existence. So, either God can exist or God doesn't exist. Our choices are either we can believe or not believe. If we believe in God exists, we get infinite good. We get all of the possible good. You get heaven. You get all of these wonderful things. If we believe in God does not exist, we get some bad. Like I said, this is not exactly what Pascal put forward. However, I believe this is going to be a stronger version of the argument that's going to kind of give the atheist everything they want in terms of those low-hanging, easy objections without destroying the heart and the power of this argument. So let's say you believe, but God doesn't exist. There's some bad out there. Maybe you spent a lot of time boycotting abortion clinics and you shouldn't do that. You got some bad in your life because of that. But it was a finite amount of bad. Maybe we now look at you don't believe. So if you don't believe in God exists, there's going to be arguably some bad in your life. We're not even going to say there's infinite damnation in hell right here. We're going to say there's some bad and maybe you just die. You don't go to heaven, you don't go anywhere. Some bad, some finite amount of bad. Then you don't believe God does not exist. We'll even give him. There's some good. Maybe, I don't know, you supported gay rights or something and that actually was a good thing. Whatever that is, there is some finite amount of good. And finally, we'll even give the atheist, the arguer against Pascal, the conceit that it's probably a small finite probability that God exists. And it's a pretty large finite probability that God doesn't exist. We're going to give you all that you want. However, even giving up all these concessions, it is still mathematically going to be better for you to believe. Why? Because when you throw that infinity in there, it doesn't matter how small that finite probability is. When you have infinity, you're just going to get infinity times anything. Any finite positive thing is definitely going to be infinity. Even if you take off a big chunk of that with some finite bad that you subtract from that, it's still going to be infinity. Don't believe, maybe you get some good overall, but it's nowhere near the infinite good that you would get if you believed. So, even giving up all these concessions to the atheist, Pascal's wager seems to still stand strong. So, next up, in the next video, I'm going to take a look at some stronger objections to Pascal's wager, namely the many gods problem and the problem of doxastic voluntarism. I'll leave you with a quote from Pascal himself. Let us weigh the gain and the loss in wagering that God is. If you gain all. If you lose nothing. Wager then, without hesitation, that he is. Watch this video and more at Carneades.org, and stay skeptical, everybody.